My name is Lena Marquez. I'm 37 years old. The night our house burned down, I stood on the sidewalk barefoot, wrapped in a Red Cross blanket that felt like sandpaper, watching my entire life curl up into smoke. The flames started at the garage. One minute I was rinsing dishes after dinner. The next I smelled this sharp electrical burn and heard a pop so loud I thought a transformer had blown. When I opened the door to the garage, the far wall was already alive, orange and hungry, licking up the side like the drywall had been soaked in gasoline. My husband, Evan, grabbed our 8-year-old daughter, Mari, and bolted. I did the thing you're not supposed to do, the thing they tell you in every fire safety video not to do. I ran toward the bedrooms. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe? Some part of my brain still believed I could save something. The photos on the wall, the box of my abuela's recipes, the wedding album we never digitized. But smoke moves faster than memories. It rolled down the hallway like a living thing, hot and thick. One breath and my lungs seized. Another and my eyes were just streaming, no control. I grabbed my phone and my wallet from the nightstand and realized that was it. No clothes, no documents, no shoes. Just smoke in my lungs and this metallic taste of panic in my mouth. By the time I stumbled outside, coughing, our little house was a glow stick snapped in half, bright and broken. Firefighters moved like a practice machine around us, shouting to each other over the roar of water and flame. A neighbor put a hand on my shoulder, asked if we were okay. I nodded, even though I had no idea what that meant anymore. Evan stood on one side of me, with one of those scratchy blankets around him. Mari was on the other side, eyes huge, clutching a stuffed unicorn that already smelled like smoke. "Where's my room?" she whispered. Nobody answered. Evan pulled her into his chest and just held her. I watched as a firefighter smashed the den window and something inside crashed, probably our old TV. It all sounded far away, like my head was underwater and everything above the surface was happening to someone else. I remember my hands still trembling when I pulled out my phone. Not from fear exactly, from the hollow feeling, like someone had scooped the inside of me out with a spoon and left the shell standing there. I opened the family group chat. My parents, my younger brother Nico, my older sister Jasmine. Same thread we'd used for birthday photos, bad memes, and emergency, who has mom's spare keys? Texts for years. I didn't think. I just typed. We're safe, but we lost everything. I stared at the words for a second, like maybe there was more I should add, some detail about how much, how bad. Then I hit send. Read popped up almost instantly under my message, all 3 of them. I waited for the dots to appear, for someone to call, for my mom to freak out, for my dad to ask if we needed him to come, for Jasmine to send 10 question marks, for Nico to say he was on his way. Nothing. The read receipts sat there like 4 tiny accusations. One of the firefighters came over to ask if anyone in the family had asthma, if we needed a medic. Another neighbor brought us old flip-flops they had in a closet, a trash bag of mismatched clothes. People I barely knew started circling around us, orbiting this small disaster, offering pieces of comfort. My phone stayed silent. By midnight, the flames were out. The house was not. The front half was blackened, the back half was a skeleton. We were transported, half in shock, to a temporary shelter at a converted gymnasium across town. Rows of cots, harsh fluorescent lighting, the smell of sweat and hand sanitizer trying to hide the fact that despair has its own scent. Volunteers handed out bottled water and clipboards. A woman with kind eyes asked if Mari wanted a teddy bear. Our daughter fell asleep on my lap, clutching a donated plush rabbit. Evan sat across from me, elbows on his knees, staring at nothing. His hands were still shaking. My head pounded, a dull, heavy beat behind my eyes. I pulled out my phone again. Still nothing from my family. The little read under my text looked sharper now, like it was cut into the screen. They probably fell asleep, I muttered to myself. They'll call in the morning. I wanted to believe that. Wanted it so badly. An hour later, I made the mistake. I opened Instagram. I didn't even know why I did it. Muscle memory, maybe. A reflex. I wanted something stupid to look at. Something not on fire. The first thing at the top of my feed was a carousel post from my sister Jasmine. 10 photos. Photo 1. My parents, Jasmine and Nico, out by some lake I recognized from summers when I was a teenager. My dad at the grill, spatula in hand, big smile. Photo 2. My mom in a floppy hat with a drink, sunglasses reflected with blue sky and water. Photo 3. Nico and Jasmine in matching family weekend t-shirts, clinking plastic cups. Photo 4. My dad wearing neon green floaties as a joke, everyone laughing. Photo 5 through 10. Variations of the same thing. Jokes, poses. The 4 of them together. Tagged @mom, @dad, @Nico, @Jazz. Captioned, best family weekend ever. I just stared at it. The room noise faded into a low buzz. The screen lit my face in a way that felt almost cruel. They had seen my message. I saw the little read receipts. They knew. Not one of them had responded. But 10 minutes, an hour, whatever it had been after my life went up in flames, they had time to post this, to curate the lighting, pick the filter, and declare to everyone who followed them exactly how great their lives were. No, thinking of you, sis. No, we're driving over. No, are you okay? Nothing. I turned the phone so Evan could see. He looked at the photos, his jaw tightening. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. We stayed in that shelter 3 nights. FEMA showed up. A woman in a navy vest walked us through forms that sounded like another language, contents list, loss claim, temporary housing eligibility. Neighbors we barely knew dropped off bags of clothes, blankets, shoes of all sizes. A firefighter who'd been there the first night came back on his day off with a pizza and told us about the fire he'd lived through as a kid, how his family rebuilt. Strangers did more for us in 72 hours than my own family did at all. My parents never called, my siblings never texted. The group chat stayed frozen on my single message. Weeks passed like that. Mari stopped asking when we were going back home. She started calling the cot my bed and the plastic drawer of donated clothes my dresser. Insurance moved slowly, like it had all the time in the world. Evan's parents drove down from Riverside the second they heard. They didn't ask for details, didn't interrogate us about what we'd lost. They hugged us long and tight, took us out of the shelter, and found us a tiny 2-bedroom apartment across town. His dad handed me a prepaid card at the door, pressed it into my palm with both hands. "This isn't charity," he said when I tried to protest. "This is respect. Your family." Respect. The word hit me so hard I had to sit down. It felt like something I hadn't realized I'd been craving from my own side for decades and never really got. We moved in. Stained carpet, ancient stove, leaky faucet. It was the most beautiful place I'd seen in weeks. I started taking whatever work I could get while we sorted out insurance and planned the long process of rebuilding. Small construction jobs, painting units for a landlord who paid in cash, cleaning out garages. My hands were raw, my back permanently sore, but at least I was moving. At least I was doing something that felt like building a future instead of waiting for someone to hand us one. One evening, after a long day helping fix a roof in Echo Park, I came home with my clothes dotted in paint and tar. Mari was doing homework at the wobbly kitchen table. Evan was washing dishes in the tiny sink. I plugged my phone into the charger on the counter and saw it. 92 missed calls, all from my family chat. Dozens of messages stacked under the same thread that had been silent since the fire. At the top, a text from my mother. "We need you immediately. It's just $5,000. I stared at the screen. The house burning down. The shelter. The weeks of silence. Nothing. The second they needed money, 92 calls. This right here, I thought. This is the moment. The line between before and after. And I realized that fire hadn't just taken our house. It had burned away the last illusions I had about where I stood with them. I didn't answer my mother's text, not right away, not for a long time. I set the phone on the counter like it was something radioactive and poured myself a glass of water I didn't drink. In the living room, Mari was sounding out words from her reading worksheet. Evan was pretending not to watch me, towel over his shoulder, dish in his hand, the question already in his eyes. "Everything okay?" he asked. "My family," I said. "They need me, immediately." He waited. "It's just $5,000, I added, hearing my own voice go flat. There it was, the script, the one I'd been given so many times before that I could recite it in my sleep. "We need you. It's just this once, just until payday, just to get us through. We're safe, but we lost everything." Silence. "We need you immediately. It's just $5,000. 92 missed calls. The math wasn't hard. My phone buzzed again. From Jasmine. "Please don't make this harder than it has to be." From Nico. "It's just a loan. Chill. From Mom. We know you have it. Lena, don't be dramatic. Dramatic. That word hit me like a slap because I suddenly heard it in my father's voice, my mother's, my sister's. Every time I'd tried to set a boundary, every time I'd questioned something, every time I'd said, I'm tired, or I don't have it this month, or can someone else help? Stop being dramatic, Lena. You know we'd do the same for you. Would you? They'd watched my life literally go up in flames, watched me vanish into a shelter, watched me disappear from every group plan they posted. Pulling out the money card now wasn't an accident. It was a reflex. I wasn't a daughter or a sister in that chat. I was an emergency fund. 10 years of being the responsible one. 10 years of saying yes. I paid Nico's shipping costs for his streetwear brand that never made it past the first drop. I put Jasmine through her last semester of nursing prerequisites when her aid fell through because she missed deadlines. I covered my parents' second car so they wouldn't have to sell the boat they earned. They hadn't said thank you in a long time. They said, of course, instead. I picked up my phone again. The messages kept coming, popping up one after another. Mom, your father is under a lot of stress. This is not the time for you to turn your back on us. Jasmine, I cannot believe you're ignoring us for money when we never turned our backs on you. Nico, we all know you're staying with his parents. You're fine. We're not. Think bigger than yourself for once. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. For once, I thought about the years before the fire, the endless, subtle grind of being their safety net. The way my mom would say, we don't want to bother your sister. She has so much going on. Or, your brother is trying so hard. He just needs time. As though I had nothing going on. As though my effort didn't count as trying. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my banking app. Not out of panic, out of clarity. The shared savings account I'd quietly set up with Nico for emergencies when his business needed a cushion, closed. Funds moved to a separate account he couldn't access. The credit card my parents used for groceries, which somehow always included salon appointments and new electronics, I tapped through the menu and canceled the card. The screen asked me if I was sure. I'd never been more sure of anything. The co-signed lease I'd put my name on for Jasmine's Westwood apartment, just until she established credit, I sent an email to the landlord formally removing myself at lease renewal. Let them deal directly with her now. Let the real world meet the woman who never returned my calls when rent was due. One by one, I severed every financial string that tied me to their crises. It didn't feel good, it felt quiet, like shutting off a machine that had been humming in the background for so long I'd forgotten how loud it was. The next morning, the messages slowed, then stopped. For 3 days, my phone stayed mostly still. No calls. No texts, no guilt speeches. For the first time in as long as I could remember, my family chat thread was silent by choice. Mine. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was strategic. They were regrouping. A week later, my phone lit up. This time it was a screenshot. An eviction notice. Jasmine's apartment manager had taped it to her door. Her message underneath, I hope you're happy. This is your fault. I stared at it for a second, feeling a twinge of the old reflex. The one that said, fix this, fix her, fix everyone. You're the only one who can. Then I set the phone down and went back to helping Mari with her math homework. That same afternoon, Nico went on a rant in his stories, the kind of pseudo-motivational, vaguely threatening posts people make when they want to subtweet specific people without naming them. He talked about people who let money change them, about how blood should mean something, about fake loyalty. He tagged me and Evan. Then he dropped a link to a GoFundMe for a much-needed new car after his old one randomly broke down. Randomly. After years of missed oil changes and ignoring every dashboard light, I was willing to bet. I scrolled past the link and opened a photo from earlier that day, Mari laughing as sawdust floated through a shaft of sunlight in my father-in-law's garage. On Saturdays, I was helping Evan's uncle build furniture for extra cash, sanding, staining, assembling. My fingers were covered in tiny nicks and splinters by the end of each day, but watching a rough piece of wood turn into something useful was grounding. It made sense in a way my family never had. That night, another voicemail from my mom. This one wasn't yelling, it was worse. She was crying. Lena, she said, voice shaky, we're behind on bills. Your father's hours got cut. We never asked you for anything you couldn't afford. That wasn't true, but she believed it. I don't recognize you anymore, she continued. You're cold. You're becoming the kind of woman who's going to die alone. Bitter. with no family at her funeral. That one landed deeper than I wanted to admit, because deep inside, under all the anger, there's always that child voice that whispers, "What if they're right? What if you are unlovable if you're not useful?" I sat with it, let it sting, let it try to anchor itself, and then I looked around. At Evan washing dishes, at Mari asleep on the couch with a book on her chest, at the photos we'd already printed and taped onto the wall of the ugly little apartment. I was not alone. I was just alone from them. "Do you think I did the right thing?" I asked Evan later, when we were in bed, staring at the cracks in the ceiling. I hated myself a little for needing the reassurance, but I asked anyway. He didn't sigh. He didn't say, "It's complicated." He didn't say, "They're still your family." He just nodded. It wasn't even a question for me. I exhaled. When Evan's parents invited us to move in with them temporarily, my first instinct was no. Pride is a hell of a thing. "We're fine," I said. "We have this place. We'll save. Insurance will come through eventually. You have a child," my mother-in-law said. "You don't have to prove anything." So we packed up the little we had, shelter-issue blankets, borrowed furniture, thrift store clothes, and moved into their house in Riverside. I expected it to feel like failure. It didn't. It felt like landing. There were weird noises at night I had to get used to, and family rhythms to fit into, but they were small adjustments. My father-in-law let Mari help him build a birdhouse that first weekend, her cheeks smeared with paint and sawdust as she grinned. My mother-in-law made too much food and insisted we eat seconds. They never asked what was happening with my parents. They didn't pry. They just made room. The contrast punched me in the gut every single day. One morning, as we sat on the back porch with coffee, my father-in-law watched me stare into the yard, mind clearly far away. "You're thinking too loud," he said. I huffed. "Sorry." He shook his head. "Don't ever apologize for thinking. Just don't do it in circles that go nowhere." I laughed, but it came out choked. He leaned back in his chair. "You can't set yourself on fire to keep people warm, mija," he said. "They'll just keep asking for more firewood." The sentence hit so hard I had to swallow twice. He sipped his coffee, and eventually, "There's nothing left of you but smoke." I looked at him. "How do you know?" "Had a brother like that," he said. "Took me 30 years to stop feeding his fire. Took my dad dying before he realized you can't guilt or threaten someone into loving you unconditionally." We sat quietly for a while after that. Later that week, I called a different kind of lawyer. Not Thompson, not divorce, a boring estate attorney. "I want my name off everything," I told her. "Every trust, every joint account, every document my parents added me to, for safekeeping." She said it would take time. I said I had time. The truth was, I needed it. I needed the legal ties cut clean, so the emotional ones had a chance. 2 nights after the paperwork started, there was a knock on the door in Riverside. My mother-in-law peeked through the peephole and stiffened. "It's your brother." I hadn't seen Nico since before the fire. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. He stood on the porch, hands in his pockets, hoodie sleeves pulled over his knuckles. He looked like he hadn't really slept in weeks. Designer sneakers, dark circles, confusion in his eyes. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then he shook his head and said, "Are you really going to let us drown like this?" I didn't invite him in. I walked past him and down the porch stairs. He followed, footsteps dragging, like he wasn't used to chasing anyone. We stopped at the edge of the yard. The late afternoon sun was low, casting long shadows across the street. Someone's dog barked down the block. "They think you're serious this time," he said. "I am," I replied. "They're freaking out," he huffed. "Mom's barely talking. Dad's pissed. Jasmine's doing her whole 'everyone betrayed me' monologue." I let out a short, humorless laugh. Shocking. "No, listen." He shifted, like the words physically hurt coming out. "I didn't come here to beg. I came to tell you something you probably don't know." He paused, chewing on his lower lip. Then he said quietly, "I was supposed to come that night. When the fire happened, I was already in the car." I stared at him. The yard felt very far away suddenly. "And Dad called," he continued. "Told me not to go." It felt like someone had poured ice water down my spine. "He told you not to come," I said slowly, "when he knew my house was on fire?" Nico nodded, shame flickering across his face. "Said not to feed into it. Said you were probably just looking for attention. Said you'd be fine. That if we showed up, it would just make things worse." Mom backed him up. I was quiet for a long time. "They saw the pictures," I said at last. "They read my message." "Yeah," he said. "They just didn't want to believe it. They said you've always been dramatic, that you always make things about you." I laughed then, not because it was funny, because it was exactly what I expected and somehow still managed to hurt. I gave them money for 10 years, I said. And the one time I needed something, I was making it about me. He looked down. I didn't fight them, he admitted. I should have. I saw the photos. I knew it was bad. I was halfway down the block when I turned around. I didn't tell him it was okay. I didn't pat his shoulder. I didn't say I understood. I just let the truth sit between us until it stopped burning and started hardening into something else. Why are you telling me this now? I finally asked. He looked up, eyes glassy. Because I moved out last week, he said. Packed my stuff, left. I've been staying on a couch in Gardena. I couldn't do it anymore. They talk about you like you're some monster, like you changed. He shook his head. But you didn't change. You just stopped letting them take. They're the ones who are scared. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Mom wrote this, he said. Said it was better than texting. He held it out. I didn't take it. He stood there, arm extended, for a long 5 seconds. Then he sighed, walked over to the porch steps, and set it down on the bottom one. If you ever want to talk, he said, backing away. Like really talk, not like before. I'm around. He didn't wait for an answer. He just turned and walked into the dusk, shoulders hunched, hands shoved into his sleeves. I watched him go. The letter sat on the step, edges fluttering in the breeze. For a long time, I didn't touch it. I imagined burning it, throwing it out, leaving it there until the sprinklers turned it into pulp. But later that night, after Mari was asleep and Evan was reading in bed, I went outside and picked it up. Under the porch light, I unfolded the paper. It wasn't an apology. It was 6 printed receipts, all from a clinic, all with my father's name on them. Oncology, imaging, labs. Words that sit in your stomach like stones. On the last page, in my mother's handwriting, a single line. This is why we asked for the money. No explanation. No, we're sorry. Just that. And suddenly, the next chapter of this whole mess wasn't theoretical anymore. It was a decision I had to make. Right now. The letter felt heavier than paper should. 6 clinic receipts and 1 handwritten sentence shouldn't have been able to tilt the ground under me, but they did. I sat there on the porch steps under the warm porch light, listening to the crickets chirping in the yard, feeling something twist inside me. Not pity, not guilt, something quieter, something unfamiliar. Clarity. My father was sick. Stage 3 something. I didn't know what yet. My mother needed money. My siblings were spiraling. And none of that erased the fact that they had left me standing barefoot in the street with my daughter and husband while our house burned, then posted lake selfies with matching shirts. None of it erased the silence, the absence, the way they only remembered my name when their accounts dipped below 0. Inside the house, I heard soft footsteps. Evan opened the front door gently. You okay? He asked. I folded the letter slowly. My dad's sick. His eyebrows tightened. How bad? Bad, I said. But I don't know the details. He sat beside me. The wood creaked under our combined weight. What do you want to do? I stared at the dark yard for a long moment. I don't know, I whispered. Part of me wants to call him. Part of me wants to burn this letter. Evan nodded. Both make sense. And neither feels right. Mari's laughter drifted faintly from inside the house. She'd fallen asleep earlier, but she talked in her sleep sometimes. Little murmurs and happy sounds. It was a softness I didn't grow up with. Something my childhood never gave me. I'd built something different for her, something gentler, something safe. My phone buzzed again. Another message. From Nico. Mom's in bad shape. Dad, too. Please don't make this the hill you die on. The hill I die on. Because boundaries always feel like betrayal to the people who benefited from their absence. I didn't reply. I left the phone on the porch railing, went inside, locked the door, and climbed into bed with Evan and Mari. I slept for the first time that week. Not deeply, but without nightmares, without burning shingles collapsing, without my mother's voice telling me I was cruel. The next morning, my phone had 17 unread messages. One from Jasmine, dramatic as ever. I hope you're happy. This is the moment you turned your back on your family. 5 from my mother, alternating between guilt, anger, and the classic. Your husband is turning you against us. 4 from Nico, conflicted, angry, apologetic, guilty, confused. He was always the one most like me, the one who broke under pressure most quietly. And 1 from my father, a voicemail. I didn't play it at first. I held my phone in my hand while pacing the kitchen, drinking cold coffee like it was medicine. Evan watched me but didn't push. Finally, I put in my earbuds and hit play. Static, a soft inhale, then his voice. Lena, I don't know where to start. My heart clenched a little. He sounded thinner, older, tired in a way I'd never heard. It's it's not easy for me to say this. I'm not good at apologizing. I never have been. No kidding. I was wrong about a lot. About you, about the fire, about everything. I gripped the counter. I didn't believe the fire was as bad as you said. I thought you were trying to scare us into reacting. I thought you were angry and lashing out and exaggerating. I didn't even look at the photos. He exhaled a low, shaky breath. Your mother believed it too. She shouldn't have. I shouldn't have. We told ourselves you'd come around because you always do, even when we don't deserve it. I closed my eyes. You've been carrying this family for years, Lena. I should have said something, should have thanked you, should have paid attention. But I didn't want to see it. I liked the version of you that helped everything run smoothly. I convinced myself that you didn't mind, that you owed it to us somehow. There it was, the truth I knew but never heard out loud. You didn't stop me, I whispered, even though he couldn't hear me yet. Not once. He continued. When you didn't reply about the money, I told your mother you were stubborn, or angry, or punishing us. A pause. But the truth is, you were right to cut us off. You were right to walk away. The air left my lungs. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't prepared for it. If you never help us again, I'll understand. I just didn't want to leave this world without telling you that. I felt the back of my throat tighten. I'm sorry, he said softly. For the first time in my life, I mean it. A beep signaled the voicemail ending. I didn't move for a long time. Evan came over. What did he say? I pressed the screen into his hands, unable to trust my voice. He listened, jaw tightening in shock, then softening into something like empathy. Lena, he murmured, I'm so sorry. He never apologized. Not once. Not in 37 years. People change, he said quietly. Sometimes too late. Sometimes just in time. I wiped my eyes and exhaled. What are you going to do? He asked. I thought about it. I'll cover the next round of treatment, I said finally. Directly with the clinic. Not a dollar goes to them. And not because they expect it, because it's the right thing for me. Evan nodded. Okay. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt or pressure or manipulation. I felt choice. The next few weeks were strangely calm. I transferred the money directly to the medical center. No fanfare, no text announcing it, no emotional back and forth. Just the payment. My mother didn't say thank you. My sister didn't reach out. My brother sent an occasional check-in. Hey, you holding up? I wished him luck. Nothing more. I didn't let any of them back in. Not out of anger, just distance. Distance is sometimes the only medicine that works. Meanwhile, life kept moving. We stayed with Evan's parents until we found a rental house an hour east. The house was small, 2 bedrooms, a sagging porch, and a roof that needed patching. But it felt stable. It felt sunny. It felt like a place that wasn't haunted. Mari picked the paint color for her bedroom walls, blue and silver. Like Sky and Robots, she said proudly. For the first time since the fire, she sounded like a kid again. At night, I lay in bed listening to her breathing through the thin walls, listening to Evan sleep beside me, and felt something unfamiliar settle in my ribs. Peace. Not loud, not triumphant, not cinematic. Just peace. The kind you don't recognize until you finally have it. 2 months after moving in, I filed paperwork to be removed from the family trust. My father had added my name years ago without asking. You're the responsible one, he'd said at the time. You'll make sure nothing gets messed up. But being the responsible one was a trap. It always had been. Signing my name off those documents felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years. I was becoming someone else. Someone lighter. Someone not built out of obligation. Someone I liked. 3 months passed before I heard anything significant from my family again. Life had become beautifully, quietly ordinary. Evan and I settled into the rental house like it was a cast we could finally breathe inside. We rebuilt a routine. School drop-offs, dinner at 6, budgeting for groceries, patching holes in the wall, picking paint samples that actually matched. On weekends, I worked with Evan's uncle at the fabrication shop, my hands stained with sawdust, my jeans permanently smudged. It was honest work, grounding work, the kind that puts tired into your bones in a way that feels good, not defeated. Our daughter, Mari, made a new friend down the street, a girl named Luna who wore mismatched socks and carried around a frog in her pocket. They were inseparable within days. Every time they ran through the yard, laughing so hard they hiccuped, I felt another piece of myself settle. For the first time in years, my life didn't revolve around emergencies. And then one evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and the sky turned pink and gold, Nico showed up. Again. He was standing on our porch when I stepped outside with a trash bag, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders drawn in tight. His hoodie was the same one from before, but this time he looked calmer, like the storm inside him had passed, or at least learned how to stop screaming. "Hey," he said. I nodded. "Hey." He rocked back on his heels. "I wanted to tell you something." "Okay." He took a breath, like he had rehearsed it. "Dad collapsed last week." My chest tightened. "He's okay now," he added quickly. "Well, not okay, but stable. They admitted him again. The treatment's been rough." I swallowed hard. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" He raised his eyebrows. "Because you told them not to call you unless it was life or death." "That doesn't sound like me." "No," he said with a small laugh. "It sounds like Mom rewriting the situation in her head. But I didn't call you because I didn't know if you wanted to know." Silence stretched between us. "Do you want to know?" he asked softly. The question hit deeper than it should have. Did I? Did I want to know every detail? Every lab result? Every hospital admission? Every moment that could spiral me back into the caretaker role they'd carved into me since childhood? "I want the truth," I said finally. "Not the guilt version. Not the dramatized version. Just the truth." He nodded. "It's not good," Nico said. "They think it's spread. He's starting a stronger round next week. Mom's losing it. She's grieving him while he's still alive, you know?" Yeah, I knew that pattern well, mourning the idea of someone instead of the reality. He hesitated, then looked at me with something raw in his eyes. "You helping with that treatment, it saved him, at least for now. And Mom knows it, even if she'll never say it." I crossed my arms, partly because I was cold, partly because I suddenly felt too exposed. "That money wasn't for them," I said quietly. "It was for him, for me." "I know," Nico said. "That's why I'm here. I didn't want you to hear it from Jasmine. You know how she'd spin it." I let out a slow breath. "Yeah." Then his voice softened. "You don't owe them anything, Lena. I know they raised us to think we do, but you don't." Hearing him say it, someone who had been inside the same house, same patterns, same expectations, was like something clicking into place. He shifted awkwardly. "Also, I got a new job," he said. "Warehouse in Torrance. It's actually good. Hard, but good." "That's great," I said sincerely. "And I'm sober." That made my throat tighten unexpectedly. "Nico," I started. "I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I'm not asking to move in or borrow money or anything. I just wanted to tell you, because for the first time in my life, I'm doing something hard without ruining it." Something warm, pride maybe, bloomed in my chest. "I'm glad," I said. "Really." He nodded once, like that was all he came for. But then he lingered. "Can I ask you one thing?" he said. "Not for them, for me." "Yeah." "Do you hate them?" I took a long moment before answering. "No," I said finally, "but I don't trust them, and I don't need them anymore." He looked relieved. Not because of the answer, but because I said it without anger. "I think that's healthier than hate," he said. "Mom always said hate keeps you connected. Distance doesn't." I almost laughed. "Your mom said that?" "No," he snorted. "Mom's best friend said that during one of their wine nights. Mom wasn't listening." We both laughed then. Actual laughter, the kind that cracked something brittle between us. He stepped back. "Okay, I'm gonna head out. Just wanted to tell you the truth." "Thanks for coming," I said. He started down the steps, then paused. "Lena, I'm sorry I didn't show up that night. I should have. I'll regret it forever." "You were stuck in their web," I said softly. "We both were." He let that sit in the air, nodded once, and walked into the fading light. I watched him go, feeling a strange mixture of grief and hope settle over me. Inside, Evan was setting the table. Mari was humming something off-key. The house smelled like garlic and butter and comfort. My life, my family, my choice. That night, after everyone slept, I sat on the porch again and reread the letter my mother had written weeks ago. The clinic receipts, the single sentence. "This is why we asked for the money." And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt distance. Distance that wasn't cold or cruel. Distance that felt peaceful. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Not to save sentiment, not to hold on to guilt, but because it was proof that I wasn't heartless, no matter what they'd said. I just wasn't theirs anymore. Not the way they expected me to be. Not the way they could control. The next morning, I made another payment directly to the clinic. Not because they earned it, not because they deserved it, but because compassion doesn't disappear when boundaries finally show up, and because I could live with being generous. But I refused to live being used. 3 dawns had passed since Nico came to my doorstep with the truth I never expected but somehow always suspected. The porch felt different now. less like a place where I braced myself for the next blow, more like a threshold between the life I'd survived and the life I was finally choosing. Every morning before Mari woke up, I'd sit outside with a mug of coffee and that quiet hum of crickets fading into birdsong. Evan would join me sometimes, leaning against the doorframe, watching me with that soft, steady presence he had, the one that made me feel safe without him ever saying a word. For weeks, life became something I didn't recognize, calm. There were no frantic calls from my mother, no late-night messages from Jasmine, no guilt-laden voice notes from my father. The silence they had weaponized all my life now worked in my favor. It wasn't tense or expectant. It was clean. And slowly, so slowly, I almost missed it, I started to breathe like a person who was not waiting for someone else's crisis to erupt. In the middle of this strange peace, Evan and I signed a lease on a small house near the outskirts, a place with potential, not polish. Cracked walkway, crooked mailbox, but a yard big enough for Mari to run in, a kitchen with actual sunlight, and a garage Evan said could easily be converted into a workshop. The day we moved in, my father-in-law helped carry boxes inside while Mari ran from room to room, shouting which one should be hers. Paint samples spread across the dining table, blue for her room, green for the kitchen, a warm cream for the living room walls that still smelled faintly of rain damage. Piece by piece, we began rebuilding a life that wasn't a reaction to disaster, but a movement toward something better. On Sundays, Evan and I drove out to look at land listings, acres outside Los Angeles, near desert edges or hillsides, where houses weren't built yet and the world felt a little wider. Not to buy yet, not until we were steady, but to dream. And dreams, I learned, take root in quiet moments. Every once in a while, Mari would ask, "Are we going to visit Grandma and Grandpa again?" I would kneel, brush her hair back, and say what felt truer every day. "We're making our own family now." She'd smile, like that answer felt enough. And it was. Then, one cool evening, not cold enough for a jacket, but crisp enough that the air stung a little, I came home to find Evan sitting on the porch steps with a strange look on his face. Concern. And something else. Something almost protective. "You got a call," he said when I approached. "From who?" He hesitated. "Your dad." I froze. He sounded not good, Evan added gently, and not just physically. My chest tightened. What did he say? He asked if you could call him back. Said it wasn't urgent, just important. Important. The word carried a weight I wasn't ready for. I sat next to Evan, letting the cool air push through my lungs. "Do you want to call?" he asked. "I don't know," I whispered. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to," he said. "But if you want to hear him, I'm right here." I nodded. After dinner, after Mari was asleep, after the house quieted into the soft hum of nighttime, I stepped outside with my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found my father's name. Then I hit call. He answered on the first ring. "Lena?" His voice was thin, like a man whispering into a pillow. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It's me." There was silence on his end. Then a shaky exhale. "I didn't think you'd call." I didn't respond. I didn't know how. "I want to tell you something," he said. "Something I should have said a long time ago." I leaned back against the porch railing, my heart beating in my throat. "I'm proud of you." My breath caught. "You did what I never could," he continued. "You broke out of this family's patterns, the taking, the blaming, the pretending." He coughed, the sound muffled. "It took me too long to see it, but I see it now." I swallowed hard. "And I'm sorry," he whispered, "for not showing up when you needed us, for believing the worst, for calling you dramatic when you were drowning." Another pause. "For raising you to think your worth was measured by what you gave." Tears blurred the porch light. I let them fall. "I don't need anything from you," he said. "I don't want anything. I just needed you to know I see you now, and I wish I'd been the father you deserved." A quiet night settled around us, heavy with what had finally been said. I closed my eyes. "Dad," I murmured, "thank you for saying that." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was truth, and it was enough. "I'm not calling to make you come back," he said, voice trembling. "You owe us nothing, you hear me? Nothing." A tear slipped down my cheek. "Okay," I whispered. "And Lena?" he said. "Yeah? Your mother. She's lost without you, but she'll never say it, not in the right way." He sighed, weary. "Give her what you need to give her, not what she demands. And if that's nothing, that's okay." Something inside me cracked, not open, just less burdened. We talked for a few minutes, nothing dramatic, nothing heavy, just small things, weather, treatment schedules, how he'd been watching old home videos during chemo days. Before we hung up, he said softly, "You were never the problem, Mija. You were the light. We were just too blinded by our own shadows to see it." I cried quietly after the call ended, alone on the porch, letting years of tangled emotions unravel. Evan stepped outside a few minutes later, knelt beside me, wrapped his arms around my shoulders. "Good call," he murmured. I nodded into his chest, the kind I didn't know I needed. "He sounded sincere," he said. "He was," I whispered. The wind picked up gently, carrying away the last of my tears. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, not with dread or guilt, but with something softer. Something like closure, messy, incomplete, but real. And I knew then, my healing didn't depend on their actions. It depended on mine. I didn't need to go back. I didn't need to reopen old wounds. I didn't need to be their fixer anymore. But I could choose compassion without sacrificing myself. And for the first time, that choice belonged entirely to me. The next morning, I covered the next round of my father's treatment, directly to the clinic, as promised. No message, no announcement, no fanfare, and no strings attached. For the first time in years, I felt the freedom of giving without being emptied, of caring without being consumed, of loving without losing myself. 8 months passed after that phone call. 8 months that reshaped my life in ways quieter and more permanent than the fire ever did. People think healing happens in big cinematic moments, in epiphanies or breakdowns or grand reconciliations. But it doesn't. Healing is slow, uneventful. It's the steady stitching of small days into a life that feels like your own again. And that's exactly what those months became. The rental house became home, at least for now. The walls stopped smelling like someone else's mistakes. Our laughter filled the rooms first, then our routines, then our plans. Evan mounted shelves in the bedroom. I painted the living room with that warm cream we'd picked. Mari taped her artwork all over the fridge until the metal practically disappeared under layers of construction paper. On Saturdays, I kept working at the fabrication shop, sanding boards, sealing wood, learning how to run the CNC machine. My hands calloused in ways that made me proud. Honest work changes you. It makes you understand yourself through what you can build, not what you survive. One day, Evan said, "You've got that look again." "What look?" "The one you get when you want to build something big." I laughed but didn't deny it, because he was right. Over the weeks, the seed of a new dream started growing, and it wouldn't stop. Not rebuilding what burned, not recreating what was lost, but creating something entirely new. By month 5, we started looking at land seriously, not just window shopping, but touring plots on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Dry, sloping land, tough soil. Not the kind of place a contractor would recommend. But I didn't want easy. I wanted ours. We found 6 acres on a rocky ridge southeast of the city. Sagebrush, scraggly trees, a view that didn't make sense for the price. The kind of land people overlooked because it wasn't ready-made. We signed the purchase papers standing on top of the ridge at sunset, Mari chasing a tumbleweed like it was alive. Evan's arm around my shoulders, wind in our hair. No fancy ceremony, no first home champagne, no family photos or christening gifts. Just us, rebuilding from fire but on untouched earth. After the land became ours, every free hour went to the foundation. We didn't hire a contractor. We didn't take out a mortgage. We worked slowly, paying cash as we went, one weekend at a time, one joist at a time, one bag of concrete after another. My father-in-law helped with the framing. Evan called in a few friends from work. We laughed between boards, cursed when measurements didn't line up, sweated through our clothes, ate sandwiches sitting on coolers. The first nail I hammered into our house didn't feel like construction. It felt like evolution, like the first physical step into a life I'd chosen, not inherited, not guilted into, not forced to hold up with both hands until my arms trembled. For the first time, I wasn't building for others. I was building for us. Meanwhile, my family remained distant. Not cruel, not chaotic, just quiet. My mother didn't call. My sister didn't text. My father didn't send updates about treatment. But Nico, he checked in every few weeks. A simple, "You doing okay?" or "Got promoted." Shift supervisor now. Weird. No requests, no guilt, no manipulation. Just conversation. I didn't let him all the way back in, but I didn't shut the door anymore either. That felt right. Then one afternoon, 8 months after the fire, my phone dinged with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up. When I did, a soft voice said, "Hi, is this Lena?" "Yes, who's calling?" "It's Nurse Caldwell from St. Augustine Oncology. I'm calling about your father." My stomach tightened. She continued gently, "No emergency, just an update in his file. He listed you as someone authorized to receive status notifications." I blinked. "I didn't know he did that." "He wanted to make sure you weren't left out of important information," she said softly. Something in my chest shifted. "Your father finished his last round of treatment last week. He's responding, slowly but positively. He wanted you to know." I exhaled. "Thank you," I said. After we hung up, I walked outside to the ridgeline of our land, breathing the desert-thin air. The half-constructed skeleton of our house stood behind me, framed, imperfect, but undeniably real. Evan walked out a moment later. "You okay?" I nodded. "My dad, he's doing better." "That's good," he said, wrapping an arm around me. I leaned into him. "It is," I said. "It really is." Not because it fixed anything, not because it undid anything, not because it made us family again, but because healing, his, mine, all of it, didn't need an audience or permission or old roles. It just needed honesty, distance, and choice. Late that night, after Mari had fallen asleep and Evan was washing up, I sat on the porch of the rental house, the same spot where I'd once cried over clinic receipts and unread messages. The hills were dark silhouettes. The wind carried the faint scent of dust and sage. My phone buzzed once. A text from Nico. "Saw Mom today. She's changing. Not sure how. But she asked how you were, without bitterness. That's new." I stared at the message. He didn't ask me to forgive her, didn't push, didn't tell me to call. He just told the truth. I typed back. "Thanks for letting me know." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared. Finally, he wrote, "I'm proud of you too. You broke the chain for all of us." I swallowed hard. Put the phone down. And for the first time in my life, the silence around me felt full, not empty. Full of everything I had rebuilt, everything I had chosen, everything I had walked through fire for. People say blood is thicker than water. Maybe, but peace is thicker than both. And when the smoke finally clears, you learn that family isn't the people who demand from you. It's the people who walk with you, even if that family is smaller, quieter, built from scratch on a rocky ridge outside Los Angeles. The night breeze moved through the half-framed beams of our future home, whispering through the wood, and for the first time since the fire, I finally felt whole.